What's up, party people? It is Friday. You know what that means? It's the weekend, baby. I don't know what that really means for you because I am still sheltering in place for the most part. So the weekend is not that much different from the weekday. To everyone who will be catching the show on the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. So, for my regulars, you know what to do. Whenever you get onto the broadcast, go ahead and chime in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from tonight. And we're going to give you all just a moment or two to get on. Of course, tonight is the last in my 5-part series entitled Sports Talk. And we're ending it with football. Hey, Shanice, checking in from Orlando, Florida. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast tonight. Hey, Chandra Gore. Glad you're able to catch the broadcast today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's Ray of Motivation moment. The Ray of Motivation moment tonight actually comes from the book, my book, Rays of Motivation. If you are interested, you can pick up the book on Amazon.com. And Ray of Motivation number 90 states, "It is in silence that you will hear your loudest revelations." It is in silence that you will hear your loudest revelations. You know, several years ago, I had a pastor who challenged us, all of the members, for a week to give up listening to the radio in the car. And at that time, I was still commuting every day to a regular 9 to 5. And the radio, particularly morning radio, Tom Joyner morning show, was how I really started my day. It was a big part of my day. Kind of, I felt like it got my day off to the right start. And I didn't really want to let my Tom Joyner go. However, I decided to give it a shot. And what I noticed was that quiet time, being stuck in traffic on the interstate, going from one side of town to another, I got so much clarity. I had so many revelations. There were times that, as a poet, I also write, And as a poet, I would have new poem ideas just kind of dropped in my spirit, so much so that at that time, this was a little bit before we all had the recorder apps on our cell phones. I had a cell phone, but I don't know that it was all that smart at that time. And I remember I used to drive with a recorder, with a small portable recorder in my car because I was getting so many different ideas. And so, my challenge for you today is to think about the quiet time that you want to dedicate in each day, particularly now that there are so many different things coming to us and at us, whether it's on television or social media or through text or through email. Obviously, with television being on 24 hours a day, and I know that I am dating myself because there is a group of people who do not know anything about television going off the air, but once upon a time it did. And so we can be constantly plugged in, and it's sometimes very difficult for us to get centered and to get the revelation on how to move forward or get clarity on what we're supposed to do at a particular juncture in our life. So I challenge you to pick the right time for you to work and move in silence. And that is the Friday edition of our Ray of Motivation moment. Well, as I said earlier, this is day 5 of our 5-part series entitled Sports Talk. And I started the series with football, and we are ending with football. Tonight, I have a national football champion. He is a graduate of Valdosta State University, where he received not one, but 2 degrees. And he is a 2012 inductee into the College Hall of Fame. Please help me welcome Dedrick G. Morrison. Dedrick, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. You know, I gotta mess around. I'm sorry.
I was like, okay, is there a delay, or he just gonna play
Yes,
me because
Angela.
he know me like that? He just gonna play me because he know me like that. Okay, so so Dedrick, how have you been spending? The social distancing. I won't say the pandemic is winding down, because as I watched the news this evening before the broadcast, numbers are up, hospitalizations are up, all of that good stuff. But and I shouldn't say good stuff, all of those statistics are up. But
Right.
many people are no longer sheltering at home. They are venturing out. But during that time from about mid-March to maybe a week or so ago, how are you spending your time social distancing?
Wow. I did it. I stayed inside. Is for the most part. I had to get outside. I found out that the more I stayed inside, the higher my anxiousness went. So I opted to, go to the track or go outside, walk, or I'll call a friend or two to walk with me, and let's have a conversation about what the heck is going on. And that dialogue, the sun, the fresh air, the exercise, the sweat, it did quite a bit for me in combating all the anxiousness, all the news, all the rumorating. I don't even know that's a word. I'm just gonna make up a word today. Rumorating, things that's in our mind. It's a word now. Forget it. In Dedrick dictionary. Yeah. So to combat that, I just went outside, because a lot of times you get so focused on what's going on inside in your mind, and a lot of times, we don't tell ourselves the truth too much, and we veer off somewhere in our minds, and it's just crazy. But I did do some exercising. I attempted to run 5 miles each day. That didn't happen every day.
Okay.
But I made sure I contacted family and friends, and a lot of family and friends did contact me as well. Even on the financial aspect, I know a lot of people got hit, globally, and I'm not exempt. I got hit as well, but I took myself away from the situation and actually kind of just thought about, okay, what would I do, or what would Dedrick do in this situation to make things better? Or what would I do if I was outside the situation to make things better? What advice would I give to myself to make things better? And the thing that came about was you don't know enough to be that afraid. That's what came out of that. And I love what you said before, just being silent. And revelation did come, as much as we look at the news, and the news not only forecasts the weather, but it forecasts our imminent doom. So it's not true. A lot of times the weather's wrong. A lot of times their predictions are wrong. We don't know enough to be afraid. Even Jesus said, you don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow got enough trouble in and of itself. So I spend my time exercising, meditating, just praying, talking with family, just doing normal stuff, try to have a sense of normality through that entire process.
Well, since you were at home quite a bit, and like many people, a lot of people ended up cooking more at home. Was that the case with you?
What? I cook a lot anyway. I love to cook. I actually picked up a new Ethiopian dish recipe, and it was banging. It was hit. Yes.
Now, who said it was banging besides you?
Me. That's it. Okay, me, myself, and I. Actually, my brother came through probably a couple days later, because I made enough for 5 days. I'm like, why am I cooking this much? You know what I mean? But I did, and my brother came over. He munched on it. He just ate it. He didn't say whether it was good or not. So, I mean, he ate it all. So I guess it was good. So, but either way, it gave me superior itis. I was out, like really out. I don't know what
Did you just say itis on the Angela Ray show?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Hey, look, I'm kind of black, but yeah, I really had itis, like for real.
Okay.
I was out cold. But go ahead.
No, it's all good. So, when I was introducing you, I talked about the fact that you played at Valdosta State and then went on to win a championship.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a moment, because I imagine that was probably a highlight of your football career.
Yeah, absolutely. I came into Valdosta State. Actually, Coach Hatcher was a coach at the time, Chris Hatcher. He actually recruited me. He flew all the way down to Winter Garden, Florida, to my high school to recruit me. Ended up getting a full scholarship at Valdosta State University. I had other offers, but the Valdosta penny spoke louder, and plus the campus was very nice. Nonetheless, I came in. I didn't redshirt. I played immediately. And that first year that I played, we got all the way to the national championship and lost. That was hurtful. But nonetheless, we came back in 2004 and we won. It was amazing to be a sophomore playing on that scale and to win a national championship. My high school was garbage. No, we had a great team, a great group of team players, but we didn't do very well throughout the time that I played. But to go from that, don't get me wrong, I learned a whole lot, and that's what got me to that championship stage. But when I got to college, like it was a whole nother level. And in my sophomore year, we won a national championship. It set a whole new precedent on, just winning in life, period.
And so then in 2012, you got inducted into the college's Hall of Fame. What was you were done, graduated, had moved on, if you will, from football, but then they honored you. What was that like?
It was very interesting. We all ended up, all of the players in that class, not just me, but the entire class of 2004 football players. We went back to Valdosta in a reunion style, big banquet, and we all got inducted into that class Hall of Fame. We was the first team in Valdosta State University to win a national championship. We won a conference championship the year before, but that wasn't the top tier championship, of course. So That 2004 championship allowed us to be inducted to the Class Hall of Fame. So I'm glad to be a part of that group. You know, it was a team effort. I feel like Shaq or Kobe is, you know, yeah, you know, it was a team effort. We played defense, and you know, it was a good game. And
Mhm.
anyway, now it was a good group of fellas.
So now that we are watching what I would say is the imminent return of sports, don't
Mm,
know exactly how and when, but you know, there's definitely talk, particularly with the NBA and also with Major League Baseball. Do you
hmm
think it's safe right now for players to return?
Yeah. Yes and no. I know they've taken precautions with the seating, but nonetheless, just like you know, our governor here in Georgia preemptively reopened, you know, the state. I think we're moving ahead quite quickly. I think we should probably take uh, really good, thorough inventory of, you know, who is sick, you know, who is this or that, the players. You know, I haven't heard anything from the players that were diagnosed with the coronavirus since then, and maybe my ear's not to the ground as well, but there's not enough reports from players who have contracted it for me to think that it's okay for us to come back. But you know, I'm healthy, and I don't know. I don't know how to take that to open up the arenas back over again. A full arena full of what 50,000 people. It could be way more than that. I think it's pretty tough to say whether it's safe for us to come back or not. Of course, I'm back in the gym. Honestly, the gym is not as packed. I do know that the NBA will be covered in Orlando, Florida, at the Wide World of Sports at Disney. I believe it's going to be like selected seating, but I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like, ooh, that's really iffy. Don't know.
If you were in the NFL right now, would you be comfortable going back even to like training camp?
Um, Honestly, I think there's some social things that really will take precedent over the virus. Honestly, um, uh, the current protests and all of that, you know, the differences in views and ideals, a lot of things have to be reconciled.
Hmm.
That's one thing, and then on top of that, COVID-19. You know, I think there's quite a few things that needs to be ironed out beforehand, and just that's just my opinion.
So is that a yes or no?
See how you do me. See how you
I'm
do
just,
me.
you know, I'm trying. Look, you know, I'm trying to make
I
sure
wouldn't.
that
I
that I.
know. I know. No. It will be hard for me to play with all the
Hmm.
social issues. You know, I'm like, my QB thinks one way. No, I'd be like, I can't play. You know, I'd be like, let's iron this out in the locker room, bro. We gonna fight or what? You know, I mean, that's how we used to do it. We're gonna fight. Cool. Um, I think that needs to be ironed out. As far as the safety parameters, I'm sure they're going to do their best. I mean, nothing's 100% guaranteed, that, you know, in anything. But I honestly think those social issues should be handled first. Um, I mean, I believe we're going to have a rise in COVID cases, but we'll see. It's really just a guessing game right now. But I wouldn't.
Speak.
No, I wouldn't want to play. No.
I got you. Speaking of social issues, you know, since the death of George Floyd, protesting has been on the rise. It's been consistent 15, 16 days in a row now. And while there are lots of young people who are on the front lines, there are a lot of athletes who are using their voices as well. What do you think about athletes using this platform right now?
Oh man, it's so needed. It's so needed. They have a platform. And a lot of people have a platform, but you know, it could be on a small scale and a large scale. I think anyone who is on the side of doing the right thing should use their platform with discretion. I wouldn't say just blast out and just do whatever you want without thinking. I think wisdom should take place first. I know Drew Brees just went out with just passion with no mind. It seemed like no intelligence at the time. And I know that, he wished to God he didn't say anything of that insensitive nature. But it seems like his heart is in the right place now. I think that was the wrong time to use the platform in that way to talk about a flag. I don't think that was proper. Yeah, I think athletes should use their platform. I think anybody that has a platform and they're siding with doing right by everybody, I think they should use their platform for sure.
I know you said you are beginning to get out a little bit more now. Have you had an opportunity to protest yourself?
I did, actually. It was last week. I actually took my daughters to a very peaceful protest, and we walked together with some other friends from different counties that came in to support my county in my area, and we walked with people, and it was very, very, very peaceful, encouraging, all of the above. I actually had the honor and the opportunity to teach my kids, what do people do when there's a great need for social change? And protesting is one of those things. I know people believe that protesting is ineffective, but guess what? It's global. Maybe in some ways, maybe it isn't, but a lot of things has changed since the globe has protested against the injustices that has occurred against African Americans. And I believe that this is the first step into really addressing a lot of different issues. So, but yeah, I had a great time protesting, and it was actually funny as well, because there was a lot of our Caucasian friends that was shaming other Caucasian people. It was hilarious. You guys are not speaking loud enough. Come on, white people. It was funny. It was hilarious. But I know where their hearts are, and I say this a lot. People don't realize until they realize. And honestly, you really can't make yourself realize. If you can make yourself realize something right now, you done figured out everything. But it takes some time. It really does take some time for some people to realize, what is really happening right now. Same thing in the grieving process. It's like, whoa, it's like a shock immediately. But eventually you really get a dose of what's really happening. Is it like a really surreal moment that allows you to really see things clearly with clarity. So, yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. I think people are really starting to realize what's going on, and social change is on the way. I really do see a great big beam of light right now in all the injustices that have occurred across the globe.
Now, you mentioned that you took your daughters, and I know your daughters, so I know that they are young.
Yeah.
How well did they understand what was going on?
Well, I believe more than anything, it made an impression, and that impression will probably carry on, beyond their current years. They're only, 7 and 5, but, if I was to yell out no justice, they would say no peace. That's how inundated with what inundated of what they were going through at that time. They were listening to the chants and the mantras that was going on outside, and it was catchy. No justice, no peace, no racist police. They know the whole thing, and they smile every time they chant it. So it's definitely a positive effect for them. But I did tell them. I often asked them, like, why are you here? And they were like, well, we're here because somebody died. And then I'm like, okay, and I'll clarify it. And then I'll ask them later, okay, well, why did we go to the protest? Well, there was a man named George Floyd who died. And, and then I constantly reiterate, why did we do what we do? Why did we do what we did? And they got the picture, the details, the intimate details. They didn't really grasp, but overall, they plainly knew something was wrong, and we were there to do something about it. I believe if we as adults take that perspective as well, the intimate details, they may iron themselves out over time, but the focus is this is wrong. This is wrong what's going on. We need to do something right. Two wrongs don't make a right. That's a simple principle. Um, but if we can, reconcile the differences we have on this planet, I mean, man, look at the changes we've made already. I think if we continue in this plight, in this idea, man, no telling what can happen.
Any final thoughts on long-term change? I have seen on social media a list of some things, either just today or either yesterday. There's a law that was enacted for Breonna Taylor, so that
Right.
people can't do the no-knock warrant. So we definitely have seen not just streets painted, which are a great visual manifestation and reminder of why people are protesting, but we've also seen laws change. What do you think the long term looks like?
Ooh, the long term to me, and we talked before. The long term for me, in my mind, how things are going right now, is things are continuously being exposed. Anytime there's a crisis, a war, challenges, those things that were hidden is definitely going to come out. And I believe we're still in the process of seeing more and more things come out. And we need those who are in power and those who are in leadership and those who have influence to take action for sure. Voting, we do need to vote. And that kind of changes my perspective as well, especially in this time. For a while, I thought my vote didn't count. Some people probably were like, what, really? Yeah, do you know the whole process of the Electoral College? And maybe some of you people may know, but, it's almost like the tax code. It's very confusing, and it needs to be simplified. And I believe that the further we go into the future with exposing a lot of these injustices, these things that are going wrong. There's people in this county who basically was blocked from being blocked from voting, actually, by some technical difficulties, quote unquote. All right. But nonetheless, a lot of things are being revealed now. What, 5-6 months ago, racism didn't exist. And now we're finding out there's a whole crew chilling. So, another thing I would like to see in the future is what's going to happen to Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain got Robert E. Lee and a lot of Confederate stuff in there. What's going to happen there? I'm curious to find out. A lot of statues have been thrown down, slammed down on account of, what it represented. And a whole mountain represents something oppressive. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Are people's passion and conviction, is it going to die out? Is it going to just fade away? I think we really need to keep that conviction, that kind of righteous conviction to say, hey, this is wrong too. And there's a lot of corporations that hang on the same plight. We're finding out a lot of corporations are really not saying anything, and there are some that are really that I didn't expect that are saying things now, that are saying, whoa, this is wrong. From video games to dating sites to musician stores. Zildjian said something. Babynames.com wrote out an entire all of the names. Babynames.com named out all of the people who died.
I'm sorry, I looked at you because I was like, are you looking for a new baby name? Something you want to share with my
No,
with my viewers? You got new news?
No, thank you, Angela. No, I'm extra single, so I'm good. But it's very curious. I honestly haven't seen anything from LinkedIn yet, and I've been kind of prying around, asking people, "Hey, has LinkedIn said anything yet? Facebook says something. Instagram said something. What's going on with LinkedIn? Don't know. I could be wrong. They might have said something a couple hours ago. Who knows? But I believe everybody on this planet needs to, well, every organization at least that is taking black dollars really need to say where they stand right now. Even if it's a facade, you know, we don't know that. But at least if you publicly display, hey, look, this is wrong, and we intend to do X, Y, Z about it. I think that will help the morale of, honestly, the globe, those who are being affected by it. Because, I mean, the overall negligence is unreal, from COVID to the injustices, the negligence on the top level from our commander in chief is unreal, to be responsible for many lives lost. That's on your hands from not responding to these cases when it came to you from the gate. It's unreal. So nonetheless, I believe we are still in the revealing stage, and I believe with that, I believe that people will have the option to make a really truthful decision. Do you really want to shop at XYZ who didn't support you at the hardest time of your life, these social injustices, the death of many Black African Americans and minorities altogether, all these injustices, do you want to go there anymore? People have the option to really make a really informed decision now. Well, and in the future as well, as things become more exposed.
You mentioned music stores, and I think that's a great segue for me to ask you to share with our viewers. What are you doing these days now that football is behind you?
Oh, well, currently, well, I'll jump back and say, so I've been a music producer for a very long time, ever since the age of 5. My dad and my mother are wonderful musicians. My entire family are musicians, excellent musicians, singers, all of the above. And I mean, just to bring it on home, if you didn't have your own music equipment, you're probably not a Morrison, but or a Madison. Nonetheless, I featured on my brother's album called Bussin', Devin Morrison, on one of his songs called Fairy Tales. And it talks about how Jesus is not a fairy tale. He's real, at least he's real to him and to me. So that alone really kind of inspired me to move into my own direction and to start production with my own album. I've talked with the same label who put Devin on, which is Honra, and I'm currently in production with that. We have some wonderful ideas and some good work ahead of us. It's been a challenge to work through these crises, but what better way to express yourself is through an album, and I believe it's going to be really expressive. But nonetheless, this album is honestly more for me than anything. Really just to hear. It's one thing to have a thing in your mind, but to express it fully and to see it manifest is wonderful. And I hope that once it comes out, which I hope will be by the beginning of next year at the latest, I hope that people will feel what I feel from the album, or at least get a sense of how I feel when I express myself. So, yes.
Okay. Aren't you also doing some personal training?
I am. I am. Very few clients, which I like it that way because I get to spend personal time with them and get to, really refine and help them get to where they want to be. I often I would either go to LA Fitness or we would go outside and work out. I would set up a plan for them, an eating plan. There's 1,000 meal plans, but my focus is not to make it burdensome, like it's a hard thing. More than anything, is just making it fun and consistent, and knowing that you got somebody there, 24 hours, like, look, I ate a biscuit. I don't know what to do. Well, relax. It's okay. You can call me or text me, and I like the intimate setting. So, but anyway, I do that on the side, and it's not a big thing yet. But as you can see, these guys. No, I'm just kidding. But I love helping people overall, so that's my goal. Stop laughing, Angela.
I was waiting for. I was like, wait a minute, are we gonna see the gun? Like, you go pull the shirt all the way up? What we doing?
Actually, I just came from working out, so if it seems like I'm a little lethargic, that's from me hitting the gym and hitting the track, and then coming home, and I didn't eat yet. So that's probably where that's coming from. I'm still working off the quarantine weight, so probably not a good time to show the gun show. So.
All right. Well, you have a question from one of our very loyal viewers. Edwin has a question for you. You see that question on the screen?
I see it. Every father has a dream for his family. What is your dream for your family? Are you hopeful? Yes, I'm very hopeful. As you can see right now in the news, Black guys are popular. I'm kidding, but I'm not. It's weird. We're global now. Isn't that something? Black people are global. There's a global concern and a global prayers towards and for us. Isn't that something? That's nuts. So I feel prosperous already. And I feel like my children have a great hope. I have immersed them in my faith, and then I know if you train a child in the way they should go, when they grow, they'll never depart from it. So I believe that my children will have a positive insight, positive thoughts about everything. I'm very hopeful. They pray for people now. They're concerned about people now. When we pass somebody that's on the highway and there's an ambulance there, and they're like, "Daddy, there's an ambulance right there," and my youngest one is like, "Okay, we should pray, Father." I'm like, wow. Woo. It makes me feel good. So I'm very hopeful. I'm alive. I believe that daughters really need to have a strong connection with their fathers as well. I want some good son-in-laws, to be honest with you. But even on the reverse end, if I was to have a son, I will want him to understand, what it's like to be a man and not just suck stuff up. My father taught me a lot, as a child. And then there were some things I was afraid to ask, because of whatever, men code, we don't say nothing, we're very stoic, whatever. But, I would teach my children, I teach my children now to be expressive, and to express yourself, and, ask questions, and from the answers that you get, make up your mind, don't just run with everything you hear, except if daddy said. But anyway, yeah, I'm very hopeful, very, very hopeful. There's a big beam of light ahead. We're on the center stage right now. All African Americans on the center stage, and this is not the time for us to act like idiots. We need to show ourselves approved, and show that we know our worth, and a lot of us do. So yeah, great question.
Awesome. Well, any final thoughts as we wrap up? You are the final interview for this series entitled Sports Talk. I actually had the idea to do a series on athletes at the time when I started putting this together. It was
Mm,
simply because I knew sports was returning. I had already
mm,
started contacting some of my guests when everything started to happen with all of the protests. And then as
mm,
athletes started to speak up. So for me, I was like, okay, I thought I was doing something because I wanted to, but it was just divine timing for me to
mm,
have this conversation throughout the week. We had a couple in one NBA player, a track runner, and then two NFL players, former NFL players. I don't think anyone is currently an athlete except for my track runner. She was a sprinter, took some time off, and now is running marathons. But yeah,
mm.
it's been a good week, a good mix of conversation and perspectives. So, since you are
Wow.
closing us out on this Friday evening, any final thoughts?
Um, yeah, sure. I would say this. Definitely take time to do exactly what Angela said in the beginning, which is to get quiet. When you start your day, don't slap yourself right into the phone. Just stop and think. It's probably one of the most underrated things to do on the planet, which is to think. People often think, oh, I'm not being productive if I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, I got to move, I got to grind. Listen, you're not always hungry. You're not always happy. You're not always sad. And you can't always grind. Okay. You can't always grind. The entire planet was on pause for a great deal of time. So I would just say, you don't have to do everything at once. Take some time to get quiet. And if you're a person of faith, get with God, you know, whatever you believe he is today, be really true and honest with yourself. Be honest. Just take inventory of who you are and where you at. If you got $3, that's cool, but that's not the totality of who you are. Okay. Really know who you are. Take the time to get quiet. Think about something that's high, not low. I said this the other day. I said, you can't think about or you can't hope for something wonderful and hope for something terrible at the same time. So make a decision of what you want to be hopeful for. And therefore, that's where your faith is. So I'd rather be up that way, to be honest with you. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, Dedrick G. Morrison, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us on this Friday evening edition of the Angela Ray Show, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay, I'm
Thank
trying
you,
to figure
Angela.
out
Thank you.
like
Thank you
what.
so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're so funny. You're so funny. Have a good night.
You're wonderful. Thank you, Angela.
All
Great job.
right. That is it for this week for the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror will not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great weekend.